Good morning. Welcome to the episode of HardFoul. Hope you guys are enjoying yourself. However you are listening, whether it is on SoundCloud, iTunes, Stitcher, and or YouTube. It is Friday. Hope you guys are ready to have a great weekend. I know I am. Man, don't ever try to do this stuff all by yourself. I swear. I need a team. It's been an interesting week. And I obviously had, and I don't want to normally involve it, but I had like my political segment earlier in the week, and me and a friend got into a kind of a disagreement on Facebook, even though I was kind of like, hey, I'm not denouncing what's happening. I'm simply like, you know. Anyway, though, let's get into the actual stuff. So, something I always find funny is the beginning of the seasons, right? Whether it's NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, all of the mainstream analysts and mainstream media sources for sports always tell you, don't read too much into the beginning of the season, right? That's what they tell us. Then they tell us, after saying, don't read too much into it, once something happens, like, oh, did you see that? Oh, he's declining. Oh, that team's not as good as it was last year. Weren't you the same guys who just told us not to overreact to the beginning of the season? But then you tell us, oh, well, the Chiefs are the best team in the history of the world because they beat the Patriots in week 1. Oh, but now the Patriots went from declining to, oh, they're great again. Oh, my gosh, Tom Brady's still the GOAT. I'm just always curious, like, if they ever hear themselves talk. Let me be very clear. I obviously, after the week 2 win against Dallas, I kind of jumped on the hype train of Denver as far as really hyping them up after a big win. The difference being, when I did it, I was coming from a place of Denver could not stop anyone running the ball last year. They have now shut down 3 very good running football teams, 3 very good running backs in LaShawn McCoy, Melvin Gordon, and Ezekiel Elliott. So that's where I came from. When in reality, I won't know much about Denver until probably week 8. I think this upcoming week is going to be a very big week against the Raiders, but the majority of my knowledge and how good I feel about this team will come probably about midway through the season. If they're 5-3, 4-4, that's a big difference. It's the difference between really good and average, and then 6-2 and 7-1, obviously. But what do we know about football to start off here? This is what we currently know about football. We know good, bad, and we know the question marks. We don't know how good. We don't know how bad, except in the case of the Jets. And the question marks, it's like, well, how good or how bad could they be? The good. We know Chiefs, Raiders, Broncos, Patriots, Falcons, Vikings, Eagles, Cowboys. They're good. They're going to be there at the end of the season. Is that guaranteeing every single one of those teams will make the playoffs? No. But every single one of those teams will be good. The bad. Giants, 49ers, Cardinals, Bears, Saints, Jets, Chargers, Browns, Bengals, Colts. Am I predicting all those teams to only get 1 win? No. Are they going to be there at the end of the season? Yeah, when it comes to fighting for who gets the number 1 pick. And then you have the question marks. You have the Bills, Ravens, Steelers, Redskins, Lions, Packers, Panthers, Buccaneers. These are the teams that can be good. These are the teams that could also go sideways. Let me put it in this way. When I say a team is a question mark, it's because they're the only teams that you could say, hey, they could make the playoffs, or they could be good at the end of the season, or they won't be. The other teams, we already know where they're going to be. The Bills, really good defense. Can Tyrod Taylor play consistently enough? The Ravens, good defense. Can that offense get you more than 200 yards? Steelers, can they win a game on the road? Redskins, is Kirk Cousins officially that guy yet? The Lions, can Matt Stafford really carry this team and beat Aaron Rodgers? The Packers, is anyone on this team besides Aaron Rodgers going to do something? Panthers, yeah, Cam Newton might be done. The Buccaneers, really young, really talented. Can they put it together? I agree with the message of don't freak out, it's early in the season. But you know what's good, you know what's bad, and then we have all these question marks. If I tell you, I compare it to milk, right? Like milk, when you buy it, milk's really good for you. Then when milk expires, you know it's bad, it looks funny, it's That day or two before milk goes bad, and you're like, okay, well now I gotta sniff it. Like, it might be good, it might be bad. The NFL and the NBA and Major League Baseball, beginning of the seasons, it's like some milk. Could be good, you know it will turn bad. That day or two before, up in the air. So, something that I want to talk about, because I was having this conversation with a friend, and I'm a big, as you guys know, I'm a big Kobe supporter. I'm not a Lakers fan, but I'm a big Kobe Bryant supporter. Mainly because that was the best player I got to watch growing up. So I'm kind of sensitive to that. And I was also really sensitive to the fact of, like, LeBron was just immediately catapulted in front of Kobe. It's like he's chasing the. I've never seen someone in one tweet or one interview saying I'm chasing the ghost and just immediately vault past everyone. I didn't realize that's what it took. Because if that's the case, I'm catching every radio and podcast personality there is. And so I was talking to him the other day, and I was like, "Why are people so willing to put Kobe or so willing to put LeBron ahead of Kobe?" And he finally gave me one of the first answers that, like, it just clicked in my head. I'm like, that makes sense. People like LeBron James outside of the basketball court. People consider him a villain because of creating the super team era and player mobility and all this other stuff on the court. Like, he's seen as a villain in the league. But off the court, he's seen as a social activist, a great guy. He has no bad marks against him. Whereas Kobe obviously had legal trouble. Kobe, who was not seen as a great teammate at times, and who's just, honestly, Kobe is seen as an asshole on and off the court. And I thought about it, and he made the joke, if LeBron, when Donald Trump uninvited Steph Curry to the White House, LeBron immediately went to Twitter and defended him, or Twitter, Instagram, I don't remember which one. Kobe would not have done that, and neither would Michael Jordan have done that. Like, guys are so ready to make LeBron the GOAT because Kobe and Jordan are assholes. Like, if that exact same thing happened, and let's say whoever the president was at the time would have been Clinton, and he had said, Hakeem, you can't come to the White House, Jordan would have said, fuck it, I'm going to go instead then. Like, the personalities of Kobe and Mike are so much harder to get along with than the personality of a LeBron. Like, even my dude, and he doesn't even really mess with LeBron like that, he said, on the court, I don't like him. Off the court, that's my guy. Because how can you not like LeBron off the court? He has no bad marks. He's a good father. He's done an insane amount of charity work. He's the only thing that's good to come out of Cleveland. Off the court, he's a perfect person. Of course guys want him ahead of Kobe and Mike. They're not perfect people. They're assholes. And so it really made me think. I was like, That was the first answer that I was like, okay, that makes sense to me. I don't get the, okay, well, he's just better analytically than Kobe, so makes him better. Oh, he's been to 8 straight finals. Kobe went to 7. Like, that wasn't a good enough answer for me. The way it's viewed, though, and especially today, whereas, like, public image is such a big thing. Like, popularity is popularity is almost as good as talent. Like, Cardi B has the #1 record in the world right now. #1 record in the world. And why does she have that? She's popular. Has nothing to do with her song being better than everyone, but she's really popular, and because of popularity and what you can do with popularity in social media, she has the #1 record in the country. Other thing, a huge reason that Kobe's run is looked differently than LeBron James' run is when Kobe was on top, it was very similar to when 50 Cent ran hip-hop. When 50 Cent was running hip-hop, there was no, like, 50 didn't work with a lot of people. And he wouldn't even let guys in G Unit work with a lot of people. Like, it was 50's time. He was going to capitalize on it. It was just him. He was the star. Whereas LeBron's run atop the league has been a lot more like when Lil Wayne ran hip-hop. When Lil Wayne ran hip-hop, Lil Wayne was doing songs with everybody. He put on so many people who would not have had hit songs if not for Lil Wayne's career. I could go T-Pain, Kevin Rudolph, Bow Wow, like the list goes on. There's a whole bunch of people that Lil Wayne did songs with, and Lil Wayne made stars or mini stardoms or gave people their 15 minutes. LeBron, with the super teams, Chris Bosh doesn't have an NBA title without LeBron James. Dwayne Wade might only have 1 title without LeBron James. Kyrie Irving doesn't have a title without LeBron. Tristan Thompson doesn't have a title without LeBron. Richard Jefferson doesn't have a title without LeBron. LeBron and Wayne, at the top of their game, invited everybody, were willing to do features, were willing to, it was not just a me, myself, and I business. When Kobe was at the top, when Michael Jordan was at the top, they are far more like 50 Cent. And they are much more, this is mine, I'm taking over, I am the star, everybody else get down. This is my league. So, and I think I got probably a little ahead of myself here. Actually, before I get to this topic that I'm going to do about the NBA, can we just take a second to really think about Rick Pitino? Like, let's be honest here for a second. Rick Pitino is effectively fired from the University of Louisville, right? And now the FBI is investigating. There's player bribery, guys getting money under the table, all that stuff. And this, I'm not naive. This happens all the time. It's just a matter of who gets caught and who doesn't. I truly believe that. Like, there is to expect enough decency and morale in sports that I'm thinking, you know what? Every single guy to ever go through USC hasn't been paid. Every single guy that's gone through Ohio State hasn't gotten paid. Every single guy got through Kentucky. Like this happens. The difference is, or not the difference, the thing that drives me crazy. The athletic director and the president of the university comes out and has these statements, right? And they're like, this is unspeakable. This is not Louisville. This is not what we, our expectations of staff who work here. This is not how we, what's the word? This is not how we hold ourselves. This is not our standard. We are better than this. What? Really? Let me just make sure I got this right. You guys are better than this. This is not what you allow. This is indecent. This does not reflect Louisville behavior. Okay. So you're telling me the same guy who had a brothel on campus, like there was like found evidence of a brothel, like guys were going to a back room and you know what happens there, but he didn't get fired for that. Okay. The same guy who had an affair with one of his staff and allegedly two of his staff, and that didn't get him fired. That wasn't above your standards or below your standards. You were fine with that part. But him and other people around him giving money to the players, that's where you drew the line. So what I just heard is my players can get laid, I can get laid. Oh, but now money's involved, we can't do it. That's too much. What? Like, think about this for a second. Like, I hate when people try to come from this moral high ground when they have no place from that moral high ground. This is one of my issues with all the NFL owners that were kneeling this last Sunday. I'm like, you guys literally have not been a part of this, have been on the other end of it, and now you want to come out and kneel. Like, that's just, it's fake. It is. Call it what it is. It's fake. There is no moral high ground for the University of Louisville right now. It's the same thing that you do with kids. Everyone tells their kid, or at least I think, if you give them an inch, they'll take a mile. And it's okay when you're a child, because your mile is usually not that disruptive, even if it irritates your parents. Give an inch, take a mile when you're in charge of young men, when you're in charge of running a program, and your mile becomes brothel. Your mile becomes cheating and having an affair. Your mile becomes players getting paid. Where is your moral ground, Louisville? And I'm not here to challenge anyone's moral ground. Like, I don't sit there and like walk up to people and say, "How moral are you? Are you living your life to the full? Are you being morally correct?" I don't do that. But when you bring it to my attention and you try to sit there and say, "Well, I didn't do that," and the Rick Pitino might be my favorite person. His answer is, "Well, I didn't know. I didn't know. What about the brothel? I didn't know that was happening. Yeah, not at my knowledge. Oh, what about the players getting paid? No, not to my knowledge. What about you cheating on your wife? Well, I didn't know about that either. Can someone tell me if I cheated on my wife? Oh, I had an affair? What? No. Nick Saban, Urban Meyer, a bunch of college coaches in football have like 20 staff and 50-something players. And yet they don't get into these scandals. Rick Pitino, you have like 4 assistant coaches and 12 players. You can't keep track of what they're doing? Okay. Not to your knowledge, though. Of course. Let's transition. I want to get away from that. I just had to kind of touch on that subject because it just, in my mind, I was like, what? So, I compared the 2 NBA signings, or 2 NBA transactions this past week were Dwayne Wade getting bought out and Melo going to OKC. And I talked about, I kind of put them in the same category, and I'm starting to realize, okay, maybe I was wrong. Melo is not the same player right now that D-Wade is. I think D-Wade is, if you want to give him leadership, sure, give him leadership. but he is a shell of the player he used to be. He is probably at this point an average 2 guard. Someone tried to post, is he still the best 2 guard in the league? And I was like, why are you tweeting from 2009? My issue with both players, though, is... Or not my issue with both players. My issue with Melo going to the Thunder, and everyone's immediately been like, Thunder are the second best team in the West, the third best team in the West, or the fourth best team in the West. And I was like, really? You think that highly of them? Okay. And some people question me, is like, well, why don't you think they're that good? Well, I'll tell you. There's, in the NBA, unless you are one of the top 5 to 10 players in the, and not in the league, but if you're one of the 5 to 10 Pantheon, Mount Rushmore type players, I mean, greatest of all time, I will give you an exempt from having to be a part of a system. And even with those Pantheon players, most played in a system. Kobe and Shaq played in the triangle. Jordan and Pippen played in the triangle. Tim Duncan played with Greg Popovich. That was in a system. LeBron is probably the only player who's ever not played in a system that's in that elite category. And you know what they say about LeBron? Well, if he would have had a Hall of Fame head coach and he had a system, he would have probably won 5 or 6 rings. Who are the best teams in the NBA today? Well, there's really only one. It's the Warriors, and they have a system. Who's the second best team? Well, in the West, it'd be the Spurs. They have a system. Who was the third best team this year in the West? The Rockets. They had a system. Who was the best in the East? LeBron. No system, no ring. Who's the second best team? I understand by seeding their number 1, but the Celtics. They had a system. Brad Stevens got them in a system. OKC, when they had Westbrook and Durant, and even take it back further, when they had Westbrook, Durant, and Harden, it was all ISO. Now, they took ISO probably as far as you can take ISO. Jordan scored 60 points with ISO, but he didn't win. Melo, Paul George, and Russell Westbrook are all ISO type players. And Westbrook is going to have to completely change his game because he's no longer able to just attack the hole and drop it off to a big man for a dunk. Unless they want Steven Adams leading that team in scoring. That team has no bench, and there is no system. Also, can we just understand the West is stacked? Like, someone made the case, a big radio personality, that if LeBron went to the West, they would have to change. If he went to the Lakers after this year, they'd have to change it and make it the top 16 teams overall. Why don't they just do that now? Think about it. If you did the top 16 teams, how many teams out of the East make it this year? Cavs, Celtics, Wizards, maybe? There's only 3, maybe 4 good teams left in the East. If you want to, the Bucks are probably the 4th seed, and they probably don't make the playoffs in the West. So I'm supposed to love, and I'm a big Carmelo Anthony fan. I'm supposed to love him, Paul George, and Westbrook in a non-system team, a no bench, and how stacked the West is. I'm sorry, I'm just not buying it. I'll take Houston, and I'll take San Antonio, and I'll take Golden State as my top 3 teams. And I think it's a drop-off after that. So I'm really loving this list segment because whenever you make a list, it's like you almost have to question your own thought process. It's like, okay, well, why do I have this guy number 9? Why do I have this guy number 5? Oh, well, I actually listen or watching this guy more at number 5 than number 9. you get into this weird realm of, it's like, okay, well, there's resume, there is talent, there is peak, there is so many things that factor into making a list. So when I got to my top 10 football players, I had to, and this is probably the hardest one I had to make. So I'm just going to get into it here because, like, I don't really have, like, an intro to this. I will say number 11 for me is Randy Moss, and I had to give an honorable mention to Randy Moss because he probably should be higher on the list. He's one of the 2 or 3 greatest receivers all time, and he just, like, you just don't see Randy Mosses that often. You don't. So Randy Moss is my number 11. My number 10 is Devin Hester. Let me explain this one, because this is probably one of those picks that most people wouldn't even think about consider. Devin Hester changed the league. Devin Hester is the reason why we have kickoff specialists. Before Devin Hester, you just kind of put, okay, I've got this third string corner who's really fast, he can return some kicks, or I have this third string wide receiver, he's fast, he can return some kicks. Devin Hester made that a legitimate position and forced teams to put their third or string cornerback or their third string receiver on kickoff coverage. Devin Hester, and I will always make this debate, is a Hall of Famer. He is the greatest to ever do his job. And if Ray Guy's in the Hall of Fame, Devin Hester deserves a spot. He's the greatest returner of all time. He's a greater returner than Deion Sanders. He has a better returner than Rod Woodson. And those guys, I get it, they play defense, so their returns were different. Devin Hester, the first Super Bowl I watched from start to finish was the Colts and Bears. Like, just didn't take my eyes off the game at all. He took the opening kickoff he returned the opening kickoff for a touchdown. And that was the only thing the Bears did. And the only time the Bears were exciting is when he had the ball. That game was terrible. It was played in the rain. Manning wasn't that great. The Bears offense, Rex Grossman was some garbage. But he took the opening kickoff to the house. My number 10 player. These next guys, I don't have in any particular order except my top 3. So I'll keep my top 3 separate. 9 through 4, no particular order. LaDainian Tomlinson, Troy Polamalu, Ed Reed, Ray Lewis, Champ Bailey. So, let me give a little bit of reasoning why. LT, I think he was the best player of the 2000s. Brady wasn't Brady yet. Manning wasn't Manning really until 04, 05. LT was not just the best running back. He was him and Adrian Peterson and Sean Alexander. Those are your 3 MVP running backs from the last 15 years. That's pretty good. LT is going to the Hall of Fame. AP will probably end up in the Hall of Fame. Sean Alexander had a good 5-year run. Troy Polamalu and Ed Reed, I'm going to get both these guys in one because I truly believe those are the best 2 safeties to ever play the game. Ed Reed at free safety, Troy Polamalu strong safety. Never have safeties been as impactful. Like, people talk about Seattle. Cam Chancellor and Earl Thomas can't hold a candle to Troy Polamalu and Ed Reed. Can't hold a candle to them. That's how good Troy Polamalu and Ed Reed are. Ed Reed might be the greatest ball hawk in the history of the game, and I've never seen a safety impact the game like Troy Polamalu. And if you look at the Steelers 4 years before he got there and 4 years after he's got left, he might have been the only reason that defense was still top 5. Because as soon as he left, that defense took a big decline. He covered up so many holes. He tackled. He got interceptions. He made plays. Troy Polamalu is a monster. Ray Lewis, despite what he does off the field, on the field, one of the 10 best players I've ever seen. I've never seen someone who plays with just such effort and mentality, and basically he willed himself to be a Hall of Fame player. I think that's incredible. Champ Bailey is my last one. He was what all these guys are trying to do. All these guys are trying to be Darrelle Revis, Richard Sherman, Josh Norman, and another guy I'm going to talk about here coming up shortly. They're all trying to be that number one corner. They're trying to be that shutdown guy. That's what Champ Bailey was for 10 years running. He was the best corner in football. He shut teams down, and he played with almost that Rod Woodson like where he could play off coverage and ended up with 50 career interceptions. My top three, Manning is 1, Brady is 2, and that's just because even if I don't agree with it 100%, I don't think you can have any, even if it's a personal list, I don't think you can have any kind of legitimacy and not have the two most influential players of the 2000s not be on your list. Like, they're just great. My number 3 is a guy you've heard me talk about before, and that's Calvin Johnson. I think as fantastic as Randy Moss is, as the GOAT Jerry Rice is, I just don't think I've ever seen or will see a player like Calvin Johnson. The number one thing you can always say about Calvin, and there's few players you can say it about, Calvin reached the very peak, and no one took it from him. Think about that. Durant is challenging LeBron for the best player. Jordan was not the best player in the league when he finally retired. Peyton Manning was not the best player in the league when he retired, or even a top 10 QB at the point when he retired. Calvin Johnson playing the most pass-happy era in the NFL with guys like Antonio Brown, A.J. Green, Demaryius Thomas, Julio Jones, so many guys, Des Bryant, who are great, couldn't touch him. The only reason he stopped being the best receiver in the league is because he retired. I've never seen a man have his coverage be punt formation. Like, they would literally just bring the punt team out, and the punt team would have, like, not the punt team, they'd literally bring out 2 corners and a safety, and they treat it like he was a punt on the goal line. I've never seen someone get triple coverage so consistently. I've never seen, obviously you can say, height, weight, speed. To have hands like that, to be that dominant, Calvin's my number 3. And he's probably, I can't take away what Brady and Manning meant to the league, but I would probably put Calvin above them, personally. But I can't take away the greatness that was Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. Okay, another topic I want to have here. So, obviously, the baseball season is winding down. I really wanted to talk about who the AL MVP, I think, will be. Obviously, I made my case for Mike Trout last week, and I said, hey, Mike Trout in 100 games is better than most of these guys in 160 games. And I still stand by that statement. But they probably won't vote for Mike Trout because he only played 100 games, or I think he'll finish at like 112. So let's go with the top 2 MVP candidates. You have Aaron Judge and Jose Altuve. Okay. There's 2 lines of thought here. There is Aaron Judge is the old school MVP because he has 50 home runs. He's going to probably get 130 RBIs when it's all, or not 100, 130 runs when it's all said and done, and it'll probably be around 115 to 120 runs. And there's the sabermetric guys who are like, Jose Altuve's the greatest player ever. He's right behind Mike Trout. Let's examine it here. And this is what I wanted to go off of. So if you're going to compare numbers, Aaron Judge 50 home runs. Jose Altuve, 24 home runs. Okay. Aaron Judge, 124 runs scored. Jose Altuve, 106. Aaron Judge, 108 RBIs. Jose Altuve, 80 RBIs. Those are kind of old school home runs, RBIs, and that would tell you, okay, Aaron Judge is the MVP. But then you get the sabermetric communities like, no, Jose Altuve is rate stats, walks, all that stuff, right? Let me show you, I think, the stat that is most telling, and it's why Aaron Judge should be the MVP. Because the number one thing sabermetric guys love to argue is on base and scoring runs. How often does you being on base actually lead to your team scoring runs? Aaron Judge was on base 266 times this year. He scored 124 runs. 57% of the time he was on base, he scored. Jose Altuve was on base 255 times. He scored 106 runs. He scored 45% of the time he was on base. Tell me where I'm wrong here, sabermetric community. Tell me where I'm wrong that Aaron Judge is not by far and away the MVP. He scores more, has more power. You could argue position second base is more important than right field, and I'd give you that. But power, runs scored, percentage of runs scored. That to me is, I don't know what else I need. That's the MVP. Fight me. So, last part of the show here, and we're going to end on, not last part, I almost got ahead of myself. Second to last part. I'm going to go through some news and notes here at the end that I want to discuss and kind of give some feedback. So, HardFoul, Surefire 5. Let's go. First game, Philly at the Los Angeles Chargers. The Chargers are a 1-point favorite, and I'm presuming that's because it's at home. Well, you guys know my rule. At home is a 3-point swing. This is telling me Vegas doesn't even think that the Chargers will win. But Vegas makes bets to they want to weigh the action. They want equal action on both sides of the bet. So by making the Chargers a favorite, you get a lot of people to jump on Philadelphia, who might not be as big as Philadelphia. Not a small market, but not as well known. The Eagles dominate time of possession in the league. They led the league last year. They're second this year. Offensive, defensive line is better than the Chargers, and Phillip Rivers has shown he cannot play with pressure in his face anymore. Take Philly. It wouldn't be my strongest bet of the week, but it's right up there. Number 2, Carolina, New England. New England is a 9-point favorite, and I normally would say take the stupid side of a stupid bet, but I'm officially done. I'm over, and I'm throwing all my good memories in the trash of Cam Newton as an elite quarterback or even a very good quarterback. Cam Newton will lose this game. I have New England coming out and winning 31-13. I've lost faith in Cam Newton. He's not accurate. He isn't even wanting to run the ball anymore. He is a shell of the player he was. Maybe he's still hurt. Maybe that's the thing. But if he's still hurt, get him off the team. Number 3, Rams at Cowboys. This is my strongest bet of the week. This is the throw your house money on it. Take out a couple loans. Take out your mortgage. Whatever you need to do to get some money. Steal from your neighbor. Rams at Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys are 7.5-point favorite. You take the Rams and you throw everything on them. The Rams have shown being able to stop the run, and we saw what Dallas looks like when they can't stop the run. Dallas coming off a big bounce back win against Arizona on Monday night after everyone was questioning them, all the controversy with Ezekiel Elliott, and they have the Packers the following week. This is a classic trap game, And Vegas is by Vegas giving Dallas 7.5, it is showing you that they believe it's a trap game and that Dallas is going to fall right in the trap, and it's a Vegas trap because Vegas wants you to think that, okay, Dallas is back, they're going to beat the Rams aren't that good, Dallas is established. Take all your money, throw it on St. Louis. You will not be disappointed. Buffalo at Atlanta. Atlanta is a 8-point favorite. I'm taking Atlanta with the points. 8 is a lot of points to give. But Buffalo plays slow, conservative, good defense. They won't stop Atlanta in that building. Atlanta plays fast, up-tempo. It'll be a big lead going into the second half. And even if Atlanta slows down, Buffalo will not be able to catch up. Tyrod Taylor's just not that kind of quarterback. Buffalo needs to play 21 and under football. Atlanta is going to force them to play 35 and up. Atlanta wins this game going away. Final one, Oakland at Denver. Denver's a 2.5-point favorite. And honestly, they could be a 10.5-point favorite. This is one of the lines I was shocked Vegas didn't play to the Denver home crowd and give them a bigger line. But with 2.5, it makes it even safer bet to pick Denver. And I will say this, if this game was in Oakland, I'm picking Oakland. But Oakland plays differently on the road than they do at home. You have Denver at home, which is trying to capitalize on their 3 out of their first 4 at home. Trevor Siemian plays much better at home. That defense plays much better at home. And the difference in Denver's defense versus Oakland's offense, and then Denver's offense versus Oakland's defense. Oakland's defense is really bad versus Denver's offense, which is good, not great, against Denver's defense, which is the best in the league, versus Oakland's offense, which might be the best in the league. Take Denver. It's my second strongest confident pick. So, to recap, Philly at LA, you take Philadelphia. Carolina and New England, take New England. Rams at Cowboys, take the Rams. That's my strong pick of the week. Buffalo at Falcons, take the Falcons. All 8 points. I know it's a lot, but you can take them. And then Oakland at Denver, take Denver with the points. So, last couple things I want to do here is just some news and notes. Someone just messaged me on my phone. I'm professional. So I took Twitter. I'm learning more and more is just a really fun thing. It is something like. So I saw this on Twitter also, by the way, and I thought this was really interesting. And it was, who's the next great cornerback? Obviously, I talked about this when I talked about Champ Bailey. But you've had the Shermans, Josh Normans, Patrick Peterson, a couple guys you could throw in the mix there. And someone posted this one, and it was called Roads Closed. And it was Xavier Rhodes from the Minnesota Vikings. In the first week, he held Thomas of New Orleans to 2 catches for 22 yards, held Antonio Brown to 3 catches for 28 yards, and then he just held Mike Evans to 5 catches for 53 yards. So in total, 10 catches for 103 yards through 3 games. I really like Xavier Rhodes. Do I think he's the best corner in the league, or do I think he's the next one up? No. And what a lot of these guys don't tell you is like the way that I hate these whole island stats because they don't ever tell you what was the flow of the game. Like Pittsburgh just kind of got punched in the mouth at Minnesota, so Antonio Brown wasn't really able to get involved. Like I didn't watch the Buccaneers game. But I know, like, Denver used to, when Champ Bailey and Dre Bly were their 2 corners, and Dre Bly was a top 10 corner at that time, and Champ was still number 1. But Champ got to play a year or 2 kind of playing half the snaps because Denver couldn't stop the run. And so when you can't stop the run, but you can have great corners, well, why would I throw on your great corners? I'm just going to run the ball. And Minnesota, who is good, not great. There's that Apple advertisement. Who's good, not great at stopping the run. It's like, why would I throw at Xavier Rhodes if I'm a team Well, New Orleans didn't know what they were doing week one. But if I'm a team like the Steelers and I have Le'Veon Bell, I can hand him the ball to. If I'm a team like the Buccaneers and I have Doug Martin, like, I'm not gonna force the issue. I don't care how great my receiver is. I don't care how great or how good your corner is. Like, I'm just not gonna force the issue on some of that stuff. The other thing that I wanted to look at is I thought this was funny. The Bleacher Report came out with it was Carl Crawford is being paid nearly $22 million to not play baseball, and that's just fine with him. Yeah, why shouldn't that be fine with him? I mean, like, someone wants to pay me $22 million to not do anything. I'll gladly do it. Plus, that's what the situation you put yourself in. When you have a game that is guaranteed money like baseball, and you force these guys to go through the BS system that is the minor leagues, you force them to go through the BS system that is the single A, double A, triple A, like, and someone agreed to pay you, and it was guaranteed, you get paid. Like, people only get mad because it's a lot of money. If you went to your job and let's say you get fired from your job, right? Carl Crawford stopped producing, so they let him go. You go to your job, you're a cashier. For this specific example, I'm gonna say you're a cashier at Smart and Final. And your job decides to let you go. They can't not pay you the money that they already are obligated to pay you. What if your boss was like, hey, I know we fired you, but because we fired you, we're just gonna hold on to your last paycheck. You can't have that. You'd raise hell. So don't sit there and get all high and mighty and all defensive just because it's not your $22 million. But anyway, that was really the two things I wanted to hit on. Xavier Rhodes, great. Not ready to put him in that category yet. Also, Carl Crawford getting paid. Also, I like the celebrations. Like, I might be crude on this one or by myself, but I didn't really think the OBJ penalty was like that bad. I get, like, you know, the optics maybe don't look great if you're an owner or if you're a coach and you think you probably have to just say something, but like, it wasn't that bad. It was a joke. Like, people need to stop taking it so seriously. He's 24, 25 years old, having fun. I mean, have you all seen his hair? Like, you can't get mad at him for peeing like a dog when his hair looks like that. Anyway, thank you guys very much. However you listen, iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, YouTube, you guys have been great. You guys are awesome. Appreciate it. Have a great weekend. Don't drink too much. And if you do, send a shot my way. Peace out.